Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Ruffler Wright, Project Breakthrough. It's Jimmy Kelley playing Eye of the Tiger. Sue Bell, live in Austin. We have just been released from our room. I've been locked in a room with Jimmy and Sue for the last 3 days. Oh, he turned it off. That was a bad move. Damn. I had a thing going. He just turned it off. That's all right. I'm no longer pumped up. I forgot what I was going to say. Damn. So, hey.
It's all about the beat.
It's all about the beat. Don't ever turn off. We had it going on, man. Don't turn that off.
Well, I can turn it back on.
We're gonna start again because Jimmy is still learning to DJ. So go ahead, Jimmy. Ready?
Oh, did I need to go back?
Yeah, turn that sucker back on. I hope we're not dating ourselves. This is like the 1980s, right? How is everybody? Give me a 1 if you can hear us. Jimmy and Sue and I just landed in Phoenix from my trip to Austin, and we had one hell of a weekend. So good to see all you guys coming into the room.
There was no tequila.
There was nothing illegal or mind-enhancing, altering, or expanding involved in our trip. And I can only tell you that it was one of the most eye-opening trips of my career. That's about a decade in the SEO industry, traffic generation industry. And so I'm hoping some of the stuff that we learned will rub off on you, some of the good vibes and great energy. And not just SEO and traffic, but also good business and business development and all kinds of other things that you guys may not even know that we do. And I'm here to help you guys go through the OMG Project B webinar questions. And I wanted to remind you that if you have questions to add, they probably won't get answered this week, but they'll get answered at omg.software.com. I'm sorry, OMG. Wow, I just gave you a subdomain that doesn't exist. omg.software. That is the questionnaire at the bottom of the page. We have lots and lots and lots of people coming in the room today. So we're going to kind of stall a little bit. Business as usual. If you have a question, put it in the question box and I will try to insert it into the question flow, although I can't guarantee it. We have quite a few questions today. If you have a microphone or a headset and you want to get on live with us, we do need to put a few of you guys live on the call so that we can humanize this call and talk to real people. We want to start making you guys realize or helping you guys to realize, which hopefully many of you already do, that SEO is not a one-stop template. The answer is almost always it depends, with the exception of a few things. So we want to make sure that we take into account your own specifics. So when you ask a question, we have to determine whether you're talking about a money site, a supporting site, domain authority stacking, whatever it is that you're doing, one feed, supercharger, RSS, silo structuring. So there's a lot of different questions. And that's why we like to take you live sometimes, especially if there's recovery stuff with Jimmy or SEO problems and issues. Don't want you guys to confuse anything with anyone else. There are sometimes customized requirements. All right, so that's where we're going to go. We'll just jump right in. Who is first, Sue?
First is a nameless person who wants to know what SEO will look like in the next 5 years. Will page 1, position 1 be our only coveted focus?
That's probably your favorite question, Sue.
The answer to that is no. We'll move on to number 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my. Can't take you guys anywhere.
Clearly not. Considering
All right.
we were all locked in a small space all weekend. 5 years, in the year 2020. I suspect by then everything will have changed. I suspect by then computers, you won't have a computer screen any bigger than your iPhone is now unless it's, you pull something out and it shines your desktop onto a wall, your screen
Yeah.
onto a wall so that you can see it bigger. Something along those lines maybe. But
I'm going with the
everything will be,
projector.
yeah, exactly.
For
Just
example, I am
Wi-Fi
currently
that to a projector.
wearing a virtual reality helmet. I'm not using a screen.
See? And
Stating an actual
it'll
fact.
it'll probably be like well, anyway.
I'm not sure how I like these though.
I was thinking they'd just be contacts, right? It'd
Yeah,
be like a
that's
heads-up
going to
display
happen.
on a contact.
Yeah, that's
Anyway, I don't know if that'll be 5 years or not, though. But I mean, you're going to be talking smaller and smaller space, where as space gets smaller, then the value of space gets higher, right? So a search engine is going to become an answer engine because it's going to become more important for it to understand what it is that you're looking for and provide you that information as succinctly as possible. And so, things are going to become a lot more personalized. It's already headed that direction, and it's going to head there even more so. I know me personally, that's how I'm looking to start coding things so that I understand you and how you think better and what you're looking for, and then provide you things more intuitively and more geared toward your preferences. So you see that already also on Google. You see it on Pandora. You see it in a lot of places. You see it all over Amazon. Products recommended to you based on things that you've bought before or things that you've looked at, your most recent things coming up, but then they also look at long-term interests and pull those ideas in. So your entire persona will get profiled, and in order for that to happen, they have to know who you are, like a fingerprint. You can't be just some kind of an electronic persona. And so then, obviously, your results, your search results, or the answers to your questions will be incredibly personalized. I was already disappointed when some of the newer devices that you can talk to, like we just played around with an Echo a little while ago, an Amazon Echo. I was disappointed that it didn't follow the thread the way that Google Voice on my iPad does. And so anyway, I'm just I'm already ready for the next evolution of software predicting what it is that you want. Paul asks, more image and less text. Yeah, however the answer can be conveyed the quickest, and depending on what the information is that you're looking for. So, it might just pop up a couple of phone numbers with a little bit of information if it's the kind of thing that you're going to want to call somebody. But, images, videos, whatever's going to communicate the fastest, definitely. Those are my thoughts. What about you, Russell?
Don't get me started. Does anybody care about my thoughts on this matter, or should we go right to SEO? Because you know me, I got soapboxes.
You got a whole string of soapboxes for this question.
Give me one if you care, and two if you'd rather move on to something more pertinent to the moment. What's working now? Don Franken's like, let's be here now.
Let's ask Jimmy. I bet Jimmy's answer might be a little bit more succinct.
Well, I'm in the middle of something, Sue.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you just asked a question.
No, hang on a second. Waiting to
Okay.
see. Yeah, most people want to move on. They don't care. Okay, you can move on to Jimmy if you want. I asked if they wanted my feedback. They don't.
How about you, Jimmy?
About what? I tried not to. Where is the internet going to be in 20 years?
5 years.
So you just look at the competitive industries and how people react and stuff. I think it could be So if you want to do like SEO type stuff, like the best thing to do is to research those really difficult markets, and one is more entertaining than others. As far as like SEO tactics and stuff go, like those are great to study for how they rank because they can't do it with traditional links or normal means typically. But usually they're ahead of the curve also as far as like technology goes and also filming, and I think you're going to see a lot more sites like YouTube. People don't really like to read. That kind of stuff will still be there, but I think it's going to be more interactive with people.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And as far as SEO, I think you can see more role being put into actual traffic, engagement factors and semantic.
Yeah. I think page one, position one, somebody just put a help desk ticket into our help desk a day or two ago, and it got kicked up to me because the results displayed in TLKT for the SERPs was radically different from what they were getting. And I mean, already page one, position one is a subjective thing. It has been for a while. And so...
They want to control the personal search.
Exactly.
They want to know that Bob, who likes chocolate chip cookies and watches Game of Thrones, when he does a search, is going to pull up exactly what he might be looking for.
Yep. Okay, so Peter says that he's built some DAS clusters. Now he wants to power them up. He wants to use RSS feeds and one-feed supercharger for that. Is there a limit to the feed directories I can submit the feeds with properties of the DAS clusters? Do I have to watch out for footprints when using RSS feeds to power up DAS?
Not necessarily, but you want to look more at like feeds that contain traffic. And if you're going to use it as a link play, then I would think that they'd want to be using more of the generators. So ones where they take the feed but flip it to a different URL. And then I still do all the other feeds, but I do that after I do the generators. But I don't even know if we go into all that in...
No, we don't.
Oh, okay.
A good chunk of that's going to be Greek.
Disregard anything that I just said. That's the wrong class. Never mind. Yes, there's no limit on the feeds that you could put through. I would just put it through.
Yeah, good.
Especially ones that have actual other traffic and stuff like that. That's going to help you out a lot.
So this question from Ira is also about DAS. At OMG Live last year, Jimmy said you had to create Web 2.0s with 4 or 5 pages or posts and link to one page. Do you link like a silo or all to the first page? Russ, which video was it that we covered this in? Do you remember? Do you have a cheat sheet of videos of previous webinars?
No.
Hell, man.
What do I look like? Your personal librarian? I mean, no.
Yes.
I've had it. I really don't even understand the question.
Paul says June 3rd. Thank you so much, Paul. That sounds about right.
Oh, then you guys are archiving it. Cool. I'll put that in.
All right. Because we cover that in great detail.
Maybe Paul wants to be my secretary.
Yeah, Paul, you want to be a
Maybe.
secretary?
You just have to write down all the DAS diagrams and SEO strategies I come up with.
We've got over 37,000. We've got over 37,000 hours of training. You all want to come and be archivalists for us?
Can you guys go over when to no-follow internal links, like to About Us pages, the main menu, etc.? Do you use any no-follow on internal links on a site, Jimmy?
Well, like, it depends. Like, back in the old day, I would set up no follow and stuff, but I was doing all my silos and stuff manually.
Right.
So back then I would. Now I'm not so worried about it. I just make sure the contextuals are where they need to be.
Right. Yeah, I don't use no-follow internally on a site at all. Is it okay that my main menu with all the top silo page links is on every page, even deep silo inner pages? Yes, that's fine. All right. Do you recommend Fiverr gigs for bookmarks? I contacted a few, and they all keep the title and description the same. Is unique content an issue with social bookmarks? Jimmy?
Yes.
Is it an issue?
Yeah, I mean, like most bookmarking sites will, like, whatever your title is, that's what your anchor will be in the bookmark. There's some services out there, I can't remember the name of them. There's some of them out there where you can spin the title, and that would be safer to use than not spinning the title. So I would be wary of that. But any Fiverr gigs off the top of my head where they do offer that service, I don't know. I'm sure there is somewhere, but you have to ask.
Well, if you think about what happens when you bookmark something, let's say you have 10 people and they all hit this one page, and they all like the content and they all bookmark it. By default, that bookmark is all going to be the same anyway, right? Across all 10 of those people? So,
But they would have the traffic to back it up.
so
There's no
people get
traffic
bookmarks
with
without...
Fiverr gig or a
I got
tool
you.
typically, so
Okay.
the amount of anchors coming in would not justify the keyword.
All right, good.
I'll take 3 for traffic bots.
Coming soon.
Yeah. Okay.
How can we use press releases in DAS?
You can just use them as one of your clusters in there. They can just be one of the properties within the cluster.
All right. How long does it take to build a page authority on a site like Scoop It if you're hitting it every day with scoops?
Happens pretty fast.
Scoop, scoop, scoop. All day
It
long.
happens in 36.942 hours. Give or take a decimal point.
Automated.
Give or take a decimal point. No, it depends on the real issue there. Again, these are the questions that we keep on getting, and let's walk through the process again. You can watch either YRSS, Why Social Explosion of mine, or you can watch the Domain Authority Stacking training with Jimmy, and several other types of things with Sue. It depends 100% on how much traffic you have, and I'm sorry, how much domain authority you have from your magazine and page authority from your magazine. It's the same every time. It doesn't matter if it's Scoop It. Like, there's no special magic formula we're giving you, like this site is better than this one. It just depends on your DA, your trust, and your page authority. So I noticed that it was a lot faster for me to get rankings when my Scoop It page magazine is a high page authority. So, for instance, we have a website, Silo Architecture Scoop It magazine, that's a PA of almost 55 or so. And so that one gets a lot more juice. There's really a lot more bang for my buck on that one. And I'm really careful with optimizing that. I take the higher DA and PA there is, the more that I really focus on Scoop It. I really focus on making sure that I have unique backlinks and all these types of things. Jimmy and I have a 2.5-hour webinar It's the only time ever actually that he and I have laid it out, and it's in our technical foundation level. It's an advanced level training on, it's called certification level 2. So it's the only time that we've ever, Jimmy and I walked together through that for 2.5 hours, and in it, we show you how the backlinks are supposed to be on Scoop It. So the higher your page authority and your domain authority is, the more careful you need to be with your linking. And it's really similar to the comments he just made on bookmarks as well. So I have noticed when I carefully use LSI terms on the Scoop It posts that I get better results from my rankings.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is it also depends on the kind of content that you're pushing through your social media. So, for example, for our stuff, for Network Empire stuff, it's pretty easy because it's of interest to a lot of people, and Russell writes really great articles with really great headlines. It's pretty easy for our domain or for our page authority on our sites to go up fast. But when I've done it for some other clients, for example, I had a dumpster client for a couple of years, and it's a much drier topic with not nearly so much social interest. And so despite the fact that I was doing 5 iframe punches, in other words, when and if he would give me a video, I would do the whole video and scoop and blog and post thing. There weren't as many blog posts, and there weren't as many videos, and there wasn't nearly the interest. So the page authority in that market would go up, or at least for him would go up rather slowly. As he started to convert over and do more things instead of just plain dumpster content, he did like interior decorating, branched out to other tangent topics for which you need a dumpster. Then he started to blog a lot more frequently because it was easier for him to find stuff to blog about, and it was more interesting, and so then his page authority would go up faster. Just looking at some of the comments that came through. All right. So, Gary says, when I compose a tweet in Twitter and I give a naked URL link to my money site, and then let's say that tweet somehow gets, say, 500 retweets, how much, if any, of my tweet would be considered as anchor text or over-optimization as it relates to penguin and panda penalty? So, for instance, if my entire tweet was, quote, how to sell your house fast, we buy houses and we can buy yours too, sell my house fast, and then the URL string. In this example, I would be gunning for 3 different keywords: we buy houses, how to sell your house fast, sell my house fast. So my question is, would Google consider my anchor text as just the naked URL, or would it somehow also consider the text anchor of each of the 3 different keywords? And would each retweet count against my anchor profile percentages? All right, so let's just look at a tweet here for a second. So if you look, go away. If you look at this tweet, what the actual anchor text here is bit.ly. And so that's the only thing that is going to actually be your anchor text, right? So this is the surrounding text for that link. So in that regard, it's not going to count against your anchor profile percentages. All right, I think we hit all the questions there.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, even then, it's like all those are flipped over to t.co anyway, so even if you had the keyword in your anchor, it's not going to show anything.
Right.
Like, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that, but, like, it's not even, like, you don't even have to worry about it with Twitter. Like, you won't get into trouble for that.
Exactly. If I create a YouTube video and it gets thousands of views and it backlinks to my site with a naked URL like xyzhomebuyers.com, can the title of the video or can any of the text around my link get tied to my site and mess with my anchoring percentages? It's if it's just going to be xyzhomebuyers.com, so if homebuyers, it's going to mess with the keyword homebuyers for dang sure.
Yeah, I was going to say a naked URL is still a partial match keyword if you have the keyword in the URL string. So if it retains it, like this is outside of, is this outside of Twitter now is what
Yeah,
he's asking?
this is YouTube, in the description in YouTube.
Yeah, but even in this case, those would be no-follow links out of YouTube, so don't have to worry about it there either.
Yeah, you're right. I don't even feel it. You're right. So let me just say.
The only time they have to worry about that is if it's a do follow, like you know, some of the, you could do that with some of the 2.0 properties where you can get a do follow link, and then you can get a bunch of shares and stuff going on with it, and then that's when you have to worry. So, but yeah, if you have a keyword in a URL, that's still a partial match. You know, like best teen drivers insurance.com is still technically a long tail because that's what your, you know, that's what your keyword would be if you're going after teen car insurance or something.
Right.
So.
Just,
A lot of technical questions tonight. It's kind of good to see all these.
To answer your question, Dave Keys, on Scoop It, I would suggest that people study content curation a little bit. We do have a course inside our training area that is still valid about themes and curation, but it's not. Curation is transformed into content marketing, and it's a subset now of content marketing. Does everybody know the difference? I hope content marketing means anything you're using to drive traffic inbound to your client sites or to your sites. Hopefully that makes sense. Outbound marketing is anything that's you're paying for that you push out into the environment, such as YouTube ads, Facebook ads, pay-per-click. Content curation is somewhere between inbound and outbound marketing and is becoming a blend of the two because content curation is not really a super effective means. It's not the ultimate optimization of your time when it comes to content marketing. The reason that we use it is because we used it in a little bit of a different way. And we only our type of curation that we always have taught and still teach today is what you call premium content curation or self-curation, meaning you really only want to curate your own stuff. So if you go to any of our Scoop It pages, you'll find out that there's not a single other person's article in the SEO industry that we scoop. Okay, so it's not much to, by the way, Guillemot, who owns Scoop It's horror and dismay, because the entire platform is designed to share your articles like trading cards. However, there are those who are actually truly curating, and you'll find a lot of organizations that have curation methods internal, do a very, very good job. They usually hire an they usually hire somebody. A lot of the times they'll have secretaries on the front desk, like scooping articles and trading and organizing content. To me, that's really a long way to go around. You know, that's for organizations that have the manpower to hand curate and create magazines that include other articles. It's just definitely not my favorite method, by the way. What we do is we understand there's a huge distinction between content curation and automatic content aggregation, which is my favorite. So the reason I wanted you guys to be able to consider Scoop It as an option is simply because it is a pretty powerful way to get some DA and PA very quickly. Paper.li is probably a lot easier with a lot higher DA, and you don't even really have to organize anything. So, curation really is helpful for some organizations. Really, really great if you're only curating yourself, and it's part of a process. And you can mix content if you want, David, but it's really a pain in the ass. And there's not a problem if you get The upside of Scoop It was that you get traffic from other people, and the only way you're really going to get traffic is if your articles are good enough, and then they get traded on other high DA Scoop It magazines. So at a certain point, if you can find faster ways to do it, you should, but it is an option. So that's the distinction there is, remember, we're teaching you guys a method that's a little bit different than what Scoop It teaches, which is curate your own stuff across your network, juice it up, and follow the domain authority stacking method. And if your articles get traded and scooped by other people, that's great. And they probably will if it's decent content. But don't hang out on Scoop It trying to scoop everybody else's articles and, all that stuff.
Scoop, scoop, scoop.
Yeah,
All day
that's
long.
a waste of time.
A monkey could do that.
Well, so easy a caveman could do it. Well, the thing is that I noticed a couple of you, since I started talking about this, started scooping my articles and stuff. That's okay if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, I appreciate it. Thanks for the juice. But, I mean, I suppose if we wanted to, as a community, we could create a Scoop It page where we all scooped each other. But to me, there's just, just use it internally so you're not dependent upon everybody else, and just follow the DAS method. It's just one more method. Okay. Ryan, I'm not saying that the iframe punch is bad. I'm saying that the iframe punch can be diluted if you start curating content the way that Guillaume wants you to curate content on Scoop It, which is to spend a whole bunch of time manually sharing your articles and socializing your articles and scooping other people's articles. And by the way, you can do that, and sometimes you will get scooped and you can start passing some juice. But think about that. When somebody else scoops your article from one of the other magazines and you scoop them back, you're not driving that juice to your content. If you don't have enough content on one of your magazines to have a strong theme, then you might want to consider doing it in the beginning. But it's just not something you guys need to automate. I would much rather have you move towards something like paper.li or Uberflip or something like that, where you don't have to do anything, where it's just all automated. That's called RSS curation. So, nobody's got time to be sitting around. You guys don't have time to sit around and scoop articles for your clients. It's just not, the ROI is not there.
So Mark says, 27 days after my 5 iframe punch, I noticed the Scoop It post was still not showing up in my webmaster tools in the backlink list. Is there a safe way to speed up the indexing of any site? Two things I got to say about that. One is webmaster tools will not show you all of your backlinks. It only shows you the ones that it thinks are interesting. And second of all, Scoop It, unless you have, correct me if I'm wrong, Russ, but if you don't have the paid version, it's going to be a no-follow link, and that's not going to show up anyway.
I believe that what he's done is only giving you a follow on the paid.
That's what I thought.
Even though it still does get indexed sometimes, but it's suboptimal. Also, be sure to check your Scoop It pages. I'm not 100% sure of this, but it's possible that, I mean, he's got millions of articles on one domain. I don't think he was deprecated, but just always copy and paste and double check that you're getting indexed. I mean, his non-follow stuff will link, but it just won't rank like everything else. So yes.
Okay. So yeah, typically I can't remember ever seeing any no-follow links in webmaster tools. They should only show you the do-follow links.
Yeah, that would be true.
So
keep in mind the rates is, it's $12. I realize for some of you that $12 is too much. So you can pass that on to your client and these types of things. Paper.li gives you a lot more juice for a lot less. Well, actually for $7 less per magazine. So all these things work the same way. The good thing about paper.li is that it's 100% aggregation. You don't have to sit around and diddle all this content and scoop it and you're just like, oh my God. Okay. So you guys just remember that we're only using it for the juice. We're not suggesting that you get socially involved with the industry's articles. Now, there may be some of you here that are very interested in content curation and you really have some expertise. I mean, I've spoken to so many people in the industry. Some of the services like Curata, Scoop It, Uberflip, and the rest, some of them actually tried to do content curation. And again, be clear on what I'm saying. Content curation is on its way out, you guys. Okay, it's on its way out. That's not how we're asking you to use it. Content curation was a moment in time between mass blogging and what's now called content. digital content marketing. Okay, it was like a jump. It was a phase when Rosenbaum wrote his book, Curation Nation. So it was a moment in time. It was like this transition to try to help the consumer organize topics and contents and make them feel like they had a handle on the information, which they really don't. But a lot of people made a lot of money on that. I have friends who did, like the owner of Scoop It and the rest. But at the end of the day, you guys are smarter than that. I'm not saying curation is bad. I'm saying remember what it's for. Think about what Jimmy's trying to say in terms of never forget about the frickin' juice, you guys. It's, like, no matter what they tell you, whether it's, I know you guys are, I get a lot of emails from you looking at Curation Soft and this plugin and that plugin. None of it matters. Like, just tear the label off of it, all right? None of it matters unless you're following DAS, unless you're looking at the juice. We only break it down. Like, take a look at like Rebel Mouse. Like, Rebel Mouse is ridiculous, and you just pay a small fraction of the fee. You're getting almost 25% more domain authority than Scoop It. So remember, we're just throwing out methods for you to use, and here's what we're not saying. We're trying to give you guys a huge understanding to get as many platforms as you can that have ridiculous domain authority, and we don't always spell out every little thing for you, okay? So here's the rule. The domain,
don't ever want to do that.
Yeah, we want you guys to mix it up a little bit. Like, for example, I gave you the 5 iframe punch, or there's actually a 7 iframe punch now, and a 12 frame punch. The thing is that each one of you has a slightly different requirement. Whenever you get the chance, yeah, Jimmy's vaping.
I'm actually not right this minute.
But that one,
listen to music though, that might be what the reverb is.
Oh, that one. The thing that I'm trying to get you guys to look at clearly is I know we're not deprecating or getting rid of our paint by numbers thing that we gave you, okay, the 5 iframe punch. That's actually an introductory level of getting your stuff all together wherever you possibly get the chance. Automatically feed your content into a high domain authority frame. So anybody ever use Rebel Mouse? You guys know about Rebel Mouse? Jimmy actually exposed everybody to that in the domain authority second course, okay? Rebel Mouse has 20% higher domain authority than Scoop It on the paid version. I mean, you have the follow, no follow issue, right? So you've got to make sure that you properly use it. Now, their linking structure, you got to mess a little bit with. You got to know how it works, and so on and so forth. But these are very high DA that you're dealing with. So you have to know enough to DA of 83. So just remember the difference. I'll shut up here in a second when I'm clear that you guys, if you understand the difference between content curation, which is the slow method of trading content like you're trading baseball cards, and content aggregation, please give me a 1. Or RSS aggregation is another way. Okay, if you do not, give me a 2. Okay, cool. Don doesn't quite. Okay, great. Patrick doesn't. Okay. That's okay, you guys. It's not a big deal. Actually, this is really huge, really, really huge. I'm going to go ahead and in our room here, because this is, like, if you had any illusion at all, like that I'm telling you that content curation is good, I should probably bust that myth now. It's a waste of time, you guys. Content curation is a waste of time. Content curation as a part of DAS is good. Okay, so the difference I'm going to give you right here, I'm going to give you the difference between content curation and content aggregation. Aggregation is when you automatically can put in an RSS feed, preferably an RSS feed, by the way. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes it's an API. Sometimes it's a direct macro. It's when you go to a service like Rebel Mouse. Rebel Mouse is, Rebel Mouse is a content aggregator at this point, Dave. It has other things in it. Then you can put an RSS feed in Rebel Mouse. It'll strip all the content from what you've got, and it'll make its own page. So everybody got that? Okay, and that's an RSS. That's what we call RSS. I call it sometimes RSS curation, but the original term in the 90s was RSS, was content aggregator. You guys understand content aggregator? Just means that you can drop any feed or service or website sometimes in a box, and it'll strip all the content and it'll snap it up into that frame. Did you guys lose audio?
I can hear you okay.
Okay, somebody said, all right, that's Ryan. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the definition of RSS. That's the main thing to understand is what we're not always saying is be as lazy as possible when it comes to jacking domain authority. Give me a 1 if you guys, I'm going to go ahead and put this definition in the chat. Somehow maybe I'm just not coming out. Maybe I'm just using too many words or something. It's really, really simple. If a service offers to take your RSS feed and slurp it in and post a bunch of articles, videos, and links for free, that's really aggregation, you guys. That's not really so much curation. In other words, you don't have to take one article at a time and scoop it like you're scooping ice cream, one bowl at a time. Like, who's got time for that? If it tells you that it'll do that like Rebel Mouse does, you're going to check for 3 things. You're going to check to make sure it's got a decent DA, and that it's giving you follow links, and that it's putting it on their server, which has a lot more domain authority than yours. Okay, so that would be aggregation. That would be content aggregation, and the key there is that it's putting it inside a frame that's already done all the work for you, so it already has domain authority. Then all you have to do at that point is build up page authority, right, and increase the trust. Does that make sense? Give me a 1 if everybody's clear, and 2 if I'm going to make sure I see no 2s on the screen. This is really good for me to become a better teacher, you guys, so let me know. Is there anybody that's still slightly fuzzy on the difference between aggregation and curation? Aggregation is automatic for lazy people like me. Curation requires some belief system that there's some useful function in trading content with people in your industry like their baseball cards. Does that make sense? Okay, let me just pull the screen over for a second so somebody's still confused. I just want to make sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Sure.
It'll take just a second. Now, I hope you can see my screen. I'm experimenting with 2 large screens coming out of one Alienware computer, so it's possible it won't work, but just let me know if you can't see my screen. I've got some seriously huge hardware plugged into the Alienware right now, and it's straining. Can you guys see the screen? Okay. Bill, can you see it? Are you guys seeing the Scoop It thing? Okay, cool. So Scoop It is really, the only way that Scoop It's for lazy people is if you follow the 5-by-frame punch method. Okay, and that is you're only scooping your own stuff. Do you see the difference? It's totally selfish. We don't care about all these people. Dennis O'Connor. I'm sure Dennis is an awesome guy. I'm sure he's wonderful and sweet. That might be an article. Or I could type in SEO. I'm sure there's really cool people in here that if I wanted to hang around and like be social with them, just go up to topics and users, that's where you lose your time. And if you guys feel like being social all day with your client's content, or if they want to hire somebody, there's nothing wrong with that, because the advantage of this would be, here's KISS metrics, right? If I were to scoop this into one of my own magazines, I'm giving juice from that magazine, from my magazine, to their article on Scoop It. See what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be antisocial, and this is exactly the opposite of how Guillemot does not want people to use this. He gets the advantages when you share these things. Sometimes people will share your things back. So let's say SEO tips and advice. If I scooped 5 ways to instantly improve landing page conversion, he might scoop mine, and then that one scoop, and it's only that one scoop, would bring juice from his magazine. You see what I mean? But that takes a lot of time. Now he's got a page authority of 55, so that would give me some scoop, okay? But the thing is that takes time, and we're an organization that doesn't have the time to be social. Now, if you guys are on a budget and you really have time, or you have an outsourced person in-house or a secretary, then you might want to do something like that. Okay, it's not a bad bootstrap method, but just make sure that if you do that, you're going to socialize with somebody who's got a lot of DA and trust and power. Okay, it's just not the way we're trying to teach you to think. To be a little bit more powerful than that. The opposite, the different method, the lazy method, would be not scooping these types of things, but just slurping it directly into a service. Okay, for example, did you guys notice that this, if I go to one of my magazines, I'm trying to go over to where we've got some magazines happening. See, these are all people that have followed or scooped. Now, what happened with us is we just stayed really, really focused on our own magazine. And people, if your content is amazing, you don't have to hang around to socialize with them, do you? Okay. So that's really what I want to point out here. If we go over to our SEO page, you know, this is only our stuff. Most curators are sharing each other's stuff. Does that make sense? Okay, and see how, in fact, this was such a problem with Guillaume that he decided to stuff these articles that I'm supposed to share in my face. See that? It's a huge waste of time. Okay, you guys see that? These are all articles that I'm supposed to scoop. It used to be that they were right over here in the corner, and then everybody, all the SEOs started cheating the system, so he stuffs them right in your face, like fills out half the screen. Okay, so that is content curation, and it takes a lot of time. Aggregation is you just put an RSS feed and it slurps all these things into here. I didn't do anything except on Rebel Mouse. All I did was just click it once and it's got everything on here. Now, this is brand new and I haven't had Jimmy check the stuff. They've done some quirky things with the flow, and you really got to get an upgraded count in order for it to pass the juice like you need to. Okay, but my point is not that. My point is you're not sharing this because you've got all this power and trust already. If you look up here, you can see it's 83. See Scoop, it's 89, but you didn't do any work. Okay, and also you can pull these feeds and start using them automatically on your own. Paper.li is the same thing. If you just go to paper.li, you put in an RSS feed and walk away, and then you can build it just like all the other methods that Jimmy is showing you how to do domain authority stacking. Does that make sense? Yeah, so Peter is asking, would there be duplicate content issues from the website? Probably. That's why it's better if you can spin stuff. But again, it's just really all about how you're using it and where it is in the stack. Does that make sense? Jimmy would have to ask like how effective this is. I don't know. This might be really bad if you know. What do you think about Rebel Mouse, Jimmy?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. So it really is how you use it, you know. There's all kinds of different ways you can use this. Also, we showed you last week, we gave you a sneak, it's kind of expensive, but Uberflip. So these are all services that just, boom, you put it in there. Another thing you guys can do, which maybe you haven't thought about, is if you've got a blog that's useless and just sitting out there on your network, I'm not even talking about a PBN, but anything, you can actually just put your own RSS feeds. We actually teach that in certification level 4. I don't know if you guys know that. We actually have a whole course on how to automate and create your own aggregation sites. Just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. I'm not sure how long the, okay, so you can see, here's a course that that's what we teach you guys. I mean, you can use these third-party services in your stack in the way that Jimmy has taught. And you can also build your own platforms. If you wanted to, you could own the platforms and you could just do your own RSS curation. This is a super simple diagram that Sue created. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes. You can go set this up. I'm just kidding. But these are actually in other words, you can do this on your own sites as well. You can just use RSS feeds to create your own Rebel Mouse, and instead of Rebel Mouse owning the platform, if you have some decent domain authority, you could use some of those sites to be your own aggregator sites. So those are just some ideas. Hopefully that makes sense, that you guys know that curation means you got to scoop one post at a time, like you're scooping ice cream into a bunch of dishes across the table all around the cafeteria. RSS aggregation is just like a wave just blowing all the dishes off the table and juicing it up with domain authority stacking, and then you just rank automatically. Does that make sense? You don't have to mess around with any human beings except when to the point of sale, POS, or the conversion. Now, both of them are useful. The domain authority stacking method, or the 5-frame punch, is a training method designed to prepare you for the big picture, okay? Because we just can't give you guys this like all at once. So we want you to understand how it works, but all of these systems can be automated. That's the long, you know. And you know, sometimes curation at the top level of your money site is not a bad way to go when you're on a super hardcore budget. And curation is useful for repurposing sometimes in some situations. So hopefully that. Also, content curation is not a horrible thing for coming up with new ideas for content. But really, when you're going to do that, you're going to want to curate on your own blog. So instead of giving, if you're going to truly be a true curator, instead of giving Scoop It all of your juice or giving away your best content first there, you can take some other people's ideas. If you find other people's ideas and you can write an article on it and drive traffic back to your own site. But the main thing is to know that all curation, all traffic should lead to your own money site. Does that make sense? Give me a 1 if all that makes sense and I can get off my soapbox, or 2 if you'd like me to carry on randomly about all kinds of inane stuff like this, since you all didn't want to hear my future talk. Okay, I think I'm going to pass it over to Jimmy at this point because I'm just giving you the Russell Wright version of this. Because when I'm sitting around with Jimmy and Sue, my knowledge of this stuff is I'm really more focused on what converts. But the stuff I was seeing this weekend, just my brain's just kind of oozed out of my. I'm seeing stuff ranking like ridiculously strong for. Jimmy's at a whole different level and Sue are at a whole different level of this. My job is just to make sure that I'm as lazy as possible and I drive all that content back to the site. And I don't want you guys to think that I'm suggesting that you got to curate all this stuff by hand. I had this horrible thought this weekend that you guys thought that because I introduced Scoop It that I actually care about other people on Scoop It. I don't. And you all can stop scooping me too because that's just a waste of your time.
All right. So, Jimmy, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's showing the right screen. It's good. All right. Trust flow, TF and CF, are they more reliable metric than PA and DA?
I don't know. In my honest opinion, I don't think any of them are really super accurate.
I don't think so either.
That's why somebody needs to rewrite the whole freaking thing. Because if you go look, like with Majestics, if you go back and look, they're pretty accurate on a tier 1 level, but when you go back to tier 2 and 3, they don't add up. And then same thing. Like, I don't know how some of them calculate what they do. I mean, they're pretty effective on a tier 1, but I don't see how you can even effectively calculate that unless you're looking multiple tiers back, in my opinion. So.
How would you know multiple tiers back? Because you get things that are disavowed, and then you don't know what's disavowed or not.
Well, you have disavows going on. I mean, you have do follow, no follow. There's, just because the metric of something is a little bit lower doesn't mean that it might not be like the most popular product in its industry or something. I mean, there's lots of other metrics besides only the link itself.
Right. So. All right. So.
I mean, I would take trust flow above DA if I had my choice.
Okay.
That's better for that question, but what the ultimate one to use is, I don't think exists yet. In case anybody's looking for a new idea.
Which is another conversation we've been having. We need a new calculator.
All right. I checked out my competition on SEMrush, and I see a ton of high-quality links from places like blah, 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 farmersnewsmarketpaper.ca, and if you hit that link, you get a 403. What the heck are they doing? Can you see that whole URL, Jimmy?
I check the competition in SEMrush and I see a ton of high quality links like
farmersmarketnews.pa.ca/dispatcher/forward/www.theenterprisebulletin.com. right?
More than likely they're cloaking.
All right, so next question. Google Sandbox is really a headache to me. When I was doing launch checking, just want to ask, is there any other way to rank it fast, like in 5 days? Where's the only way to rank faster? By linking PBNs aggressively? No, it's not the only way. Will the template method work solving this? I would say that the template method would work under certain circumstances. It depends on how competitive the term is. Octavio is siloing a fairly large site for a client. He's got a wine blog with over 3,000 wine reviews. He made himself. I'm rebuilding the site with silo architecture. He doesn't want to monetize the website as it's just a hobby. Can you please take a quick look at this image and tell me if I'm in the right direction? If it's just a hobby, why does it matter? So you have the home page going to a bunch of pages, including red wines and white wines. And off of red wine, then you're breaking it down by locales: Chile, Italy, Argentina, Portugal. And so his question is, can I have this page, Chile, showing these pages or posts? Or must it have content of its own? You know, it needs a little bit of content of its own, and you don't want it showing the entire content of any of the subpages. So if you look at the way that I wrote the plugin, where I've got that that shortcode that you can put on page, it only shows the synopsis. So it just shows like maybe maximum a paragraph, preferably just a couple of lines off of each of the subpages. And I only pull a maximum. I mean, you can set it to whatever you want, but me, myself, and I, on my websites, I pull between 3 and 5 pages. I want to show the most important pages. So under Chile, I would show the most popular wines. I actually did a wine site for one of our certified advisors back 3 or 4 years ago. I helped him when he was working on re-siloing his site. And he did it a different way. He didn't come in by locales. He came in by the types of wine. So, you know, Pinots, the grapes, basically. And then, and it doesn't matter which way you go, this way is fine too. But when you hit that page, when you hit that category page, where you've got, in this case, all of the Chilean wines, what he actually did was a Pinterest-style layout with the wines, and then he had the alt text in there for the description, so that it had some content behind the images, and he did a little bit of a hidden div just right underneath the picture with a little bit more content. So that made it so that it was still all real Pinteresty and gooey, but as far as the search engine was concerned, it had content. And I thought that it worked really well. He eventually changed the layout, but he was just, he was always changing the layouts. But that was my favorite out of all the ones that he did that I saw. And he just didn't have enough quality inbound links, or he would have ranked really pretty decently that way. So yeah, this will work. All right. So Andre has a couple of questions. One, do redirect links like bit.ly, owly, tiny URL pass an increase in trust flow? Jimmy?
Yeah, a 301 passes anything that goes through it. So regardless if you're looking at trust flow, PR, whatever, it's going to pass through it.
Okay, cool. What are some of the misconceptions about nofollow? I have no idea. You'd have to ask a specific question. Peter, client's website was ranking number 3 for their main money keywords, but has moved off the first page over the last couple of months. Haven't seen any links straight to their site, been using tiers. I haven't sent any links straight to their site, been using tiers, and I don't see negative SEO. So what's causing this?
Lowering the just flow of the tiers.
There you go.
You can have instances where you can overdo it on keywords. Your keyword with traffic volume doesn't just apply to the money site, it applies to within 3 tiers of the money site. So you have to be looking at that as you go out through the tiers.
Okay. Subdomain question. Can you have 2 subdomains with a blog function? Of course you can. The reason I ask is that I want to target a certain niche for which I build a new money site and a subdomain, blah, blah, blah. Topics I would like to talk about separately, as in very theme relevant. Yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing frequently. Yep. All right, Rosal asks another question. The new vSilo or Deep Silo plugin. By the time you read this question, you may have already talked about it. Can you share some info about the plugin updating procedures, do's and don'ts? When, where, why, wait till beta is over, how long is beta in test? Okay, so Deep is officially out of beta. I haven't released it yet because I don't have the help document completed, but that should happen within the next 24 hours if I don't get too sidetracked. And so with Deep, you'll need to delete your current Deep and install the new Deep, and then you'll have to go to one of the specific tabs, and I'll make sure that I tell you that where you download the new plugin from. Go to one of the specific tabs and it will update your plugin, because this plugin is backwards compatible. We changed the way that the architecture was done inside the plugin. In other words, we added new fields and we updated things, and I'll tell you about that why in a minute. So in order to update to the new format, you need to go to a specific tab, and then it'll go through your entire blog and it'll update everything, and it'll all be fine and right with the world. So what we did, as you probably know if you've been futzing with the content on your website, if you change the URL structure in your site, it has catastrophic effects on the silo structure. The silo structure can get all messed up. You got to go and make sure that the WordPress blog categories are straight with whatever you changed it to, and blah, blah, blah. So with our new structure, you don't have to worry about any of that anymore. You can change the titles, you can change the URLs, and everything is handled behind the scenes the way it should have been the first time. So I'm quite thrilled about that. That's a super technical thing about what's going on. There are all kinds of really cool user functions about what's coming up too, but we'll probably demo all of that next week when it's available to download, because I don't want you guys to get all excited about it and then not be able to download it. So we'll cover all of that next week. How to silo a non-WordPress site. Do all other non-silo page links need to be removed? No, header, footer, etc. No, I still have like footer links and stuff. I try to keep them to a minimum just because I don't want to pass too much link juice to them. But you know, your contact us page and your terms of service page and all those kinds of things, absolutely they can be on your site and you can link to them. And you can take a non-siloed site and silo it. You can use our plugins to silo it. Just know that your URL string becomes a different thing, which means all of your URLs, all of the URLs site-wide change, and so then you got to do 301s and that kind of thing. So I don't normally go into that. I don't normally say that you can migrate an older site. We say don't, just because it's complicated. But you can, Nathan, if you want to. So I'm setting up an RSS feed on a non-WordPress. I want to know. Oh, geez, you said non-WordPress. I read non-siloed site. Clearly, I need more coffee. I'm so sorry. How to silo a non-WordPress site? So same things apply. You can still have pages and stuff in your header and footer. I'm setting up an RSS feed on a non-WordPress site to boost the domain authority and organic rankings.
Sue,
Yeah.
can we just go back to that?
Yeah.
Nathan, I just want to make you aware, Nathan, that several of our softwares, actually, Sue, you might have to correct me. DWS, is it DWS or Kraken that actually exports just a raw XML?
Well, both export a raw XML.
Or a raw HT. There was one of our sites that I think Kelley didn't.
It's Kraken.
Yeah, not to complicate issues too much, but Kraken does have a blueprint function. We don't talk about it a lot. We talked about it a couple of years ago with OMG, but that is one way that it does have a pretty nice. You know, you could. There's a couple of ways you could take your HTML and emulate it. You know, based on keywords. So that might be worth considering, Nathan.
Setting up an RSS feed on a non-WordPress site to boost the domain authority and organic rankings. Should I install WordPress on a subdomain so that I can use OneFeed Supercharge and Social Explosion? RSS feed. So you can take that RSS feed and put it right into Social Explosion. It doesn't have to go through OneFeed Supercharger. If you want it to go through OneFeed Supercharger, I'm trying to think of the advantage. I suppose the only advantage of putting it through OneFeed Supercharger is that you could braid it with other feeds that way. But you can just add it right smack to the dashboard in Social Explosion. You know what? I don't have that up on the sales page yet. That'll be up and coming in the next couple of days too. We'll have that up on the Social Explosion page, and we'll drop some notifications into the Skype groups as we do that. 3 months ago, I migrated a client site, an existing domain with good domain authority, to a fresh domain at 301 the old pages. Is it acceptable practice to now move the new site hosting so that it is hosted as a subdomain of the old domain to utilize the existing domain authority? So you migrated a client site to an existing domain to a fresh domain, 301 the old pages. Now you're going to move it to a new site.
It's going to be like a URL nightmare.
And it's going to be hosted on a subdomain of the original domain to utilize the existing high domain authority. Well, your domain authority would have gotten 301'd
Anyways.
originally anyway. So you don't have to move it back just to recapture that domain authority. You're still good. So no, I probably wouldn't bother with another move. Just because people get things bookmarked, and you've got traffic, and that disrupts the traffic, and it confuses the brand and all that kind of good stuff. Okay. Could you give us your insight as to the number of competing pages you suggest to make our silos categories and supporting keywords, depending if you're going for very niche terms like local markets or for bigger, more competitive terms? Oh, that just so depends.
Well, that's why we have an exact category to tell you that in DWS, any silo builder software.
Well, but you can adjust those. So like it comes with defaults. But see, so the thing that I do in Network Empire Builder, which I'm assuming is what you're using if you're asking this question, because it's kind of a Network Empire Builder question. And if you're not, you should be. And so what I do is I import my stack of keywords from a particular drill or two, and then I take all of the filter settings off, and I sort by competing pages, and I just look down the list until I start to find the kinds of keywords that I'm looking for that level. So in other words, and this is where you get more into what we teach in Network Empire and not so much what we've covered in OMG. But in Network Empire, what we do is we have you go through your products and we have you go through your competitors and we have you understand what it is you're selling and how it is you want to position it. And when you do all of that, then you have a good idea of what the keywords are that you're looking for, the pain points, and how you want to express your products and services. So you already have an idea of the kinds of keywords that you're looking for. You import that list, you go down the list, and you look until you find that kind of keyword that you're looking for, and you see what the competing pages are, and then you set the range based on that. And the reason you do it that way is because if I just said, oh, everything over 5 million pages is what you want for a silo, then if you're in a teeny tiny little niche, you're going to have a silo that doesn't mean anything to your niche. Right? You're going to have something that's so huge that it's completely meaningless to your website. So it's better to come at it the other way. Who was this? Mahmoud. Does that make sense, Mahmoud? Are you on the call even? No, it doesn't look like it. All right. So Dustin says he's got a criminal attorney site that he's building with a simple silo plugin. One silo is Dallas. Criminal attorney. Supporting pages will be drug crimes, assault, theft, federal crimes, and other crimes that he defends. Whoops. It looks like we lost the rest of the question. Let me just see if he's down a little further. No. This is Carl. Okay. No. Dustin, you're going to have to ask your question again. We didn't get it. Okay, good. Thanks, Ken. All right, so Carl says, Carl, Jimmy, this is for you. Carl has a penalty question. Client websites fell from position 33 to position 16 within 2 weeks. Fell from position 33 to 16. That seems like an increase to me. I could be wrong. Maybe it means position 3. For only one single keyword. Everything was fine, then suddenly after 1 month it bounced back to position 33. And 7 days, and since for the last 7 days, it's bounced between position 20 and 30. Oh, okay, I've got it. So it went from position 33 and it went to position 6, from 33 to 16, and now it's back in the 30s. There are only 5 long tail keyword anchor texts from Do Follow Web 2.0 that contain a keyword like blah, 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 keyword blah, blah, blah. Okay, got that. Internally, he's got 10 sub-pages saying the exact keyword. The keyword's in the title, the H1, 17 times inside of a 430-word text. That seems a bit high to me. On average, competitors have 5% keyword density. Without knowing anything else, do you know what kind of a penalty it is?
Panda.
All right.
So, for one, The reason I say that is because it sounds like it's suppression. So if he has 10 keywords of pages all about the same keyword, that probably is too much repetition of the same keyword. He needs to condense and use more pure diverse for his silos or sub-pages, whatever he's using. And then there's probably no search traffic based off of the blah, blah, blah keyword, blah, blah, blah. And so you had all those links inbound to a site that's highly over-optimized for keyword. That's like a 1-2 punch, basically. So
Good point.
I would probably, it's okay to use keywords, but make sure that there's search volume behind it. And you definitely need to cut down on the amount of pages that actually use the exact keyword in it. So I would probably start first by de-optimizing your on-site and limit to how many pages actually contain that keyword first, because links are secondary to the on-site. So that's what I'd recommend.
Okay. Let me see if Carl's in the audience. Doesn't look like it. Okay. All right, so Terry, yeah, 27 to 28. All right, Terry. If I buy a PBN with a low amount of links, only a few, but links from high trust flow from legit sources, will that PBN push good rankings even if there are only a few links? Mr. Kelley?
Sorry, is that another one for me?
It is.
No.
If I buy a PBN with a low amount of links, only a few, but links from high trust flow or legit sources, will that PBN push good rankings even if there are only a few links?
Go look at the trust flow from that site that he bought. If it's under 20, you're not going to get much push.
Trust flow less than 20, not much push. All right. So in the next question, this is a DAS question. The DAS example that the web twos that are pointing to the inner pages of the silo are all do follow, and the properties pointing to the top of the silo are no follows. Is this just a coincidence, or is there a method here? I think because we were combining it with the social properties that we talked about in the previous module, I think it just ended up being a coincidence, didn't it, Jimmy?
Yes, it's a coincidence.
All right.
But I would study that coincidence.
The next part of the question, would it make sense to use no-follow properties in the DAS cluster that are pointing to inner pages or other Web 2 points?
Well, for the tiers right up to the money property, you want to try and use as many do follows as you can. So, because you want to try and maximize that at the very end.
Right. Finished with my 3 clusters last week and checked the URLs today and noticed my webs.com site had been frozen due to terms of service. Do we have a blacklist of sites that are not friendly to the SEOs?
I don't. I mean, they're usually skittish if it's a brand new thing that they created and then they see links outbound. It depends on the niche. So it just kind of goes slow on it when you first create them. Because, the manual reviewers come along and they'd be like, oh, we don't want you using this for SEO. So You know,
Yeah.
sometimes
That's
I
my
just go
desk.
light on the one page of content, wait a while, and then put up my links.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like anything that you guys can do, and gals, to make it not look like wanton spamming. I know that takes just a little extra effort, but any chance you get, sometimes it's really, really easy, you know. Anything from just, sometimes they have little social links on the side you can activate, or I don't know. Just remember that any option that you get that doesn't take you more than a few seconds that can just make it look a little bit more human. I guess I could be more specific, but on that platform, I don't really have anything.
So we've got several questions from Ryan. Jimmy, how would you use the Google Doc follow link that you demonstrated directly to a money site to power up something in a DAS? What's the most effective way to use that high 100 DA?
However they would see fit. There's really no limit to that approach. It can fit into many molds.
Exactly.
And that's why we like it. Because it
Right?
depends.
Or just yes.
Yes.
Yes, all of the above.
Right? Do you recommend this strategy whereby you funnel internal link juice from larger sites and direct them all back to your profile page, which has a link to the money site?
Where you funnel internal link juice from larger sites and direct them all back to your profile page.
I think he's talking about the Google page.
I mean, you can. It's just passing link juice. I don't see any problem with it.
But do you recommend it?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to see what exactly we're looking at.
Yeah, because I don't really know what he's talking
I
about.
can't recommend something that I don't know any details on.
What?
Was this Ryan? This was Ryan. Ryan says,
Brian, we don't know what the
just
heck you're
any
talking about.
high domain authority site.
Why are y'all making up fancy schmancy? No, just kidding.
Right?
Like, just follow the
Try it.
instructions. No, just kidding. No, make stuff up. We're giving
Try
you,
it.
we're creating.
If it works,
yeah.
it works. If
I
it
realize,
doesn't work, it doesn't work.
it's funny. I just got through saying they should try stuff, and then I just said, like, follow instructions. So.
Right? I heard that.
Cognitive dissonance.
Right. PBN links seem to be taking forever to take effect right now.
Where's the
Anything
emoticon? Where's the rubber bands over the mouth emoticon?
I got tape on my mouth.
I'm muting you. I'm muting you. Google Skyfall, I'm muting you. Google Skyfall, I'm muting you. Okay.
All right.
Like indexing is just taking longer, so it's just going to take longer for anything to index, really. So I've found some ways around it. But yeah, you just have to wait for the links to index. So that's what's taking linking profiles longer to kick in.
If you guys want to find the ways around it, then visit jimmy.live.
You gotta come to the live
Live.
event.
JimmyKelley.digital. They're not even going to let me publish it on Network Empire. It's how crazy it is.
That is exactly how crazy that is.
That's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. Like, that's why I'm so kicked back right now.
I thought about chaining together RSS feeds. In fact, we might just take down the buy button on that and close that little bad boy. Thought about chaining together RSS feeds to create a DAS stack because I don't want him to talk too much, you know? Like,
exactly.
Because you know if you put a shot of tequila in front of him, he will talk too much. All right. I thought about chaining.
What are you drinking right now? Because your behavior is modified.
But you did leave me with all of that alcohol.
Oh my God! You still have that? Oh my goodness! I thought I dumped that down the sink.
That's why we have parties at my house. That's all I can say.
Oh,
all right. Our last question for Ryan is: I thought about chaining together RSS feeds to create a DAS stack. one account pulls from the previous account and so on, which then creates a chain back to your money site. Any issues with this, especially if it's automated? Well, no. What do you think the one feed thing is?
Ryan, you are a very naughty boy.
One feed to rule them all. All right. That's all the questions we have. Thank you. Good night.
Russell, how much can we pay you to videotape Jimmy's event? It's not going to happen, guys. Forget about it. It's just don't even email me.
We will have a drone, though, taking pictures.
Not after what I saw on Saturday, Friday. There's just, I don't know.
Well, the drone's going to be up there to shoot anybody else's camera out of the sky.
That's true. We'll just do actually a magnetic field burst. Like a
There you go.
PE
An EFP, yeah.
Take out the whole hotel. All right, I'll drop the link.
Will not be pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys thinking you want to come and you haven't signed up yet, you better sign up now because my finger is on the delete button.
See, was that a platform pitch in the middle of the
No,
webinar?
it's honesty. It's blatant honesty.
All right, I'll put it in there in case Jimmy decides he's still having this event. So. There is a slight possibility that everybody. No, can I say that out loud? I can't.
No, let's not say anything.
That would be the ultimate. I would never have done a back sell that strong in my whole career, so that's why I'm so tempted. There's such thing as reverse psychology. That would be the strongest I've ever done. All right, cool. Let's just suffice it to say that the tectonic plates have shifted in the SEO world.
They've shifted so dramatically.
Based on Jimmy's discoveries and current, I know about 150 expert SEOs in the world. This is like, I can no longer call Jimmy an SEO.
That's a true thing.
Yeah, it doesn't qualify. I know that sounds kind of like inflationary, like whatever positioning. I'm just telling you the fact that I couldn't concentrate all of Saturday afternoon, and I don't even remember what we talked about on Sunday.
Fine.
It was just something about accounting or something like.
No, we talked about automating.
Automating the accounting, yeah. You guys are awesome, and we are going to have a great time. So I just passed that to everybody.
Okay,
More questions. Keep the questions coming.
I should put it up here because people watching the replay are not going to get it. This is live.jimmykelley.digital.
I know it's a little bit confusing for some of you guys about Jimmy Kelley versus Network Empire. Not for everybody, but I have heard from a few people. The problem is that the challenge is that Jimmy's stuff is outside of the realm of our one WebRing system, although it can include it, and there's places it can be used everywhere. So we just had to create a new, like a new hotel. It just requires a different.
I just don't have a place where my methods belong.
Because wherever they belong, then he'll just
He's a frame breaker.
Yeah. I guess frame breaker is kind of like social engineering. I know that could seem like a tacky word or whatever, but there's no other ways to say it. It's kind of like whatever framework or system is being discussed, he'll seek to dissolve the frame. It's not even a breaker. It doesn't break.
You're right.
It's like it's already outside of it when he starts.
There is no frame.
So that's a true thing. All of us in our company think like that. The challenge for beginners in terms of understanding larger systems like Network Empire is that we try to make sure that you understand the basic principles and the rest. So to be able to jump to the end where how all that works is kind of already outside of whatever frame you create, that's really what live.jimmykelley.digital is about. So it's for the brave. It's for the brave of heart, and you should be a little bit advanced. Don't come in as an absolute beginner.
Yeah, can't have any beginner Like if you're not sure about your SEO, definitely probably,
Don't
I'll
go.
just say you will be lost if you come to
Yeah,
the
you'll be
event.
lost. And I'm actually gonna drop the form in for you guys instead of just because
Oh yeah, that would be good.
we really are wanting to make sure we're not going to allow just anybody, and there's only a few positions left, and we really do want you to have intermediate to advanced skill set. So I'll go ahead and put that thing in there for you guys. You need to fill out the questionnaire, and that's how we qualify you for your advanced, if you're advanced enough to be there.
So, somebody's asking where our stuff is.
Which stuff?
The question from Monique is, newbie here, where can I go to catch up on all the learning? So, in case you haven't found us, dang, this page has gotten longer. Okay, let me just do find.
All right, everybody, I'm dropping in the form we just discussed so that we can get an idea of your strength.
Say there's methods in which you can rank stuff in 20 minutes. There's methods that you can rank in a day, and they're just not things I've taught anywhere else. Is really what it comes down to. So.
Yeah, you probably picked up on the fact that we're kind of calm and stuff. It's just one of those things, like some of the things we were doing is, you can turn on money in 25 minutes or less. It's never, and I'm not talking about pay-per-click stuff, you guys. It's not like, it's just kind of ridiculous. Like there's no need for marketing anymore. So I'm useless at this point. I have nothing to say or sell. It's just like, in fact, I would prefer not to talk about it. So more questions. What do we got? I sent all of you guys a form for that, for the more advanced SEO guys amongst you. Oh, there, she's trying to find that page, I see.
Yeah.
I will snip that part out of the Webby. I'm just writing down the time code. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on. Yes, Andy, the certification, the Network Empire certification event next year will be more relevant than ever. It's not undercut by Jimmy's stuff. What generally happens is what we do is we hybridize and we move into new things. Jimmy will always remain outside in the realm of the hardcore hacking of the SEO rankings. And Network Empire will always remain in the content broadcasting and SEO integration of mass automated systems. Okay. In other words, driving tons of content and easily getting, like we showed you earlier, the content aggregation, just driving huge amounts of authority and trust through RSS feeds. So Network Empire is really focused on that big system kind of thing that you can apply at any level, including small business, and Jimmy's will be more and more focused on advanced SEO. Okay, meaning it's not appropriate for you to go to, people who can go to the live Network Empire event can content broadcast. In other words, they don't necessarily have to have, intermediate to advanced technical SEO skill set. Okay, they don't necessarily, it's good if you have a silo structure, if you have a basic understanding of silo structure. So that's the basic thing that we require in Network Empire Live. But for Jimmy's stuff, there could definitely be people who come in who understand silo structure, but don't have enough experience with SEO to take advantage of, how to rank in 20 minutes kind of stuff for a difficult keyword, that kind of stuff. So that's the huge distinction, Andy, is one is hardcore intermediate to advanced SEO. The other is all about SEO broadcasting. Okay, content, conversion, traffic. You can, all of it applies together. We just needed a separate hotel for the SEO mayhem. Does that make sense, Andy? Let me know if it doesn't, because I have to create a clear communication with everybody. So there have been a few other people that have asked us, what the difference is there. I just want to make sure. Andy, you get it? Great. Thanks a lot, man. And by the way, you guys, I'm working pretty hard on a artificial intelligence-like process that will guide people down through the most appropriate paths, Network Empire, Jimmy's stuff, all of ours, based on what your focus is. Like, we have over 100 people in this room. Some of you are digital marketers. Some of you are work-at-home moms that do not have clients. You're just making money on affiliate. Some of you are SEOs, independent freelancers. Some of you are agencies. We even have an agency in here. We have a digital marketing agency. Do you guys know do you guys understand the difference between a digital marketing agency and an SEO agency, or a digital marketing freelancer and an SEO freelancer? Give me a 1 if you know the difference between those, and a 2 if you do not. Okay, great, Don. Thanks for your feedback. Oh, great. Fantastic. Some of you know. Quite a few do not know. Generally speaking, an SEO freelancer, if you came from OMG and you came out of the day job killer where you're doing local search and you get paid for rankings, that is an SEO freelancer. That's why we came up with the word one-man gang. Mike and I came up with the idea of one-man gang. That's the idea of an independent freelancer or shop. And they only do SEO, and they primarily focus on rankings. In other words, there's no outbound marketing. Okay, does everybody know what outbound marketing is versus inbound? SEO is a subcategory of inbound marketing. Inbound marketing is anything that you can use to drive traffic to your site that does not use paid or outbound methods, such as pay-per-click, Facebook, YouTube, paid ads. Those are all part of something called outbound marketing. They cost you money, and you would have to be really, really good at what you do. That's why people really focus on outbound, so that you don't, if you're a really good pay-per-click marketer or a Facebook marketer, you're an outbound expert, and you got to have a certain set of skills that's very different than an SEO. And then there's similarities, but for every dollar you put into your marketing campaign, you better be sure that you're getting at least $1.50 back, okay? And it can go sideways very, very fast. I did a marketing campaign once on Facebook where I spent $500 and had less than, had almost no conversion, okay? And I had it running for like 25 minutes. I'm much better at it now, but the point is that you can really mess up with outbound marketing, and it costs, that somebody's credit card getting debited. Inbound marketing is what a lot of you who come from OMG are focused on. You're focused on creating natural rankings through PBN, so you can get that so-called free traffic from the rankings. It's not really free, but it's inbound. I mean, it comes through methods which, if you understand the mental superpowers that Jimmy and Sue were showing you, you can gain access to those opportunities of ranking better than anybody else. And then the traffic that comes from those rankings, presuming that there's traffic, which there should be, you can drive that traffic and that money and that conversion without paying for it. And that's inbound marketing. Okay, you can consider inbound marketing as for people who don't have big credit cards and big branding budgets. Okay, and outbound marketing for people who have lots of money and big brands that can afford to dominate the Bing, Google, AdWords, and AdSense pages, and anybody who has retargeting dollars. That's all outbound. And that's all very useful, and we have more of those coming into Network Empire over the next 24 months. But our main focus for years and years has been how to help you with the inbound marketing. Okay, DAS is a part of how to enhance your inbound marketing with your own knowledge. Okay, everything we teach you guys at that. So that's the huge distinction, and really, Network Empire's live events can be considered a combination of SEO and digital marketing. So it really is a digital marketing that highlights SEO in a unique way on a massive scale. And Jimmy's really hardcore SEO, like In fact, I haven't met anybody who's hardcore SEO. So that's the distinction there, and you can understand while. So for instance, when Andy's asking me, is Network Empire live event ideal for him? That would really depend on his business model. If you are an independent freelancer that gets paid primarily for rankings, and your life and livelihood depend on every possible conceivable piece of knowledge that you have, then it's possible that an SEO-focused event on that scale would be ideal for you. Whereas Network Empire would also be useful, but you're also going to learn a larger scale model, which includes other digital marketing mechanisms. Give me a 1 if you guys, if I've kind of nailed it for you, and a 2 if it's still fuzzy, or 3 if you just want me to get off my soapbox because you're tired of hearing me talk. Okay, looks like we got you guys covered. And he's like, good stuff. Okay, cool. So, again, my main focus in my organization and with all of the students, the dozens of students I talk per week, most of the things that I do, and Sue will back me up on this, the significant number of the people that we talk to when we're talking about selling our when we're talking about our software and the dozens of software applications and plugins that we have and how to use them, is it really depends on where you are and what you're doing for a living. For instance, Fran, that might have been you. I see you here. Wasn't that you I was talking to about rankings? And I found out that the Jimmy Kelley, the method you learned from Jimmy was pretty good for you. And like when on a scale from 1 to 10, when it came to ranking local, you were like an 8 or something like that. And you were really, really worried because you didn't necessarily, you were selling rankings, but you were already trying to be responsible for traffic as well, right? And in some cases, that concerns outbound and the rest. So that's an example. You were overextending and trying to do too much, where, you were already nailing rankings that I was pretty impressed with, and yet you didn't even know that necessarily, focus on your client results. In other words, managing client expectations is a lot of the things that you guys are experiencing and dealing with still. And part of the biggest way you can manage client expectations is to know what you're actually selling. And SEO and digital marketing is rich with all kinds of opportunities. If you get on the Warriors Forum, there'll be 3,496.24 different opportunities that fly by you every week if you guys ever came out of that world. And it's a mix mesh of everything under the sun. But very few people really help you create a discernment on where that fits into a larger system. And therefore, when you go to try to make money as a freelancer or an agency, you don't necessarily know exactly, you haven't quite got your processes. And it's one of the reasons why our Sell Blueprints First module at networkempire.com has been so helpful and exciting for so many people, is because they start to get clear on, Andy's saying, what would I say that Mike Clay's business model is, digital agency? Yeah, Andy, Mike is a digital agency, or at least he markets himself as one, as a blueprint, but he still takes care of the SEO as much as possible. So he's an example of somebody who watches Jimmy and Sue's hardcore SEO stuff very, very well, and he's very, very focused on making sure that he knows all the tricks in-house, but he himself may not be doing all the tricks. His sales methods and his upfront slippery slope, or his sales funnel, the top of the sales funnel, is still about building the blueprint from a digital marketer's perspective. Okay? So that's really, really cool, is that the digital marketing perspective of selling blueprints, remember the blueprints that he's selling are very, very much going to be they're very much going to be backed up by rankings, because Domain Web Studio, for instance, which is used in the blueprints that's sold for $3,000, and in one case $18,000 up front, there's artillery there, but he still has to he's got to be able to rank those terms if he's promising the rankings. We do have people that sell only reports, and then they outsource to an expert like Jimmy or Sue or like that. So there's different models, and we're not giving you the entire business model because there's too many of you here with different models. But we can make recommendations based on that, and the distinction is knowing that if you're going to handle the SEO in-house, you've got to know SEO. If you're going to sell, you've got to at least know the framework. If you're going to outsource it to somebody, you still need to know that they know SEO models. So this is the distinction, is it really depends upon what you're offering in the Sell Blueprints First course. As we get more and more modules in there, you're going to need to decide what your organization does in terms of, do you deliver Is your operations and fulfillment department doing hardcore SEO? Are you working with somebody else, maybe an OMG or a Network Empire that's doing the SEO? There's a really interesting thing that happened. I'm not going to use any names here, but there was a gal in the UK who's been with OMG for many, many months, and she realized that SEO was just not her thing. But she was closing blueprints and she was closing clients hand over fist. And she finally just paired up with somebody who could nail rankings all day, but was afraid to talk to people on the phone. In fact, never came out of his basement. Okay, so those types of things can happen. And part of that is a strength-based business model in which you take your own personal strength and/or your team's strength and make sure that you're only selling on your contract, on your line item, what you can actually deliver. Okay, and if you have more than one person on the team, like Mike Clay has, then he's going to be able to, since he's great at sales and he understands how to reposition himself in terms of a digital marketing agency that's got a massive SEO engine. Like, don't get me wrong, Mike Clay is a digital marketing agency, but he positions everything on the back end with pretty hardcore warp drive SEO. So that's mostly just a position, you see. And all of that is based on what you have on the menu for sale. Okay. All right, good. I think I've said it. We have more of this in the Sell Blueprints first course, and of course, those of you who are hardcore SEOs, you know who you are. There is quite a few of super hardcore technical geeks, super nerd SEOs in this batch here on this call, and you guys know who you are. And some of you even work for people who are selling the contracts for you. So this is what I mean when Network Empire faces the whole eclectic approach to a bunch of you. We have to be very careful in just giving a pat answer to everybody, because some of you have different strengths and different focuses. And then there's some of you who don't really care how you make money, you just want to make money, and you haven't decided yet what you're going to deliver. That can actually be kind of a problem. And that's what I'm working to remedy right now. In fact, Fran really helped me with that. Is like, we found his strength really, really quickly. He just kicks ass at rankings because of the work he's taken with Jimmy and Sue. So, really find your strength. The strength-based business model will help you to determine whether you want to be a digital marketer, whether you want to be a hardcore SEO, whether maybe you join another team and start delivering SEO as a group or a community, or maybe a shop, an agency instead. Yeah, Fran was saying, Fran was like, crushing it. It's like he's learned everything that Jimmy's saying. It's like, but he's just not going to pick that. Fran, you're just not going to pick that phone up and try to close somebody, And so, Fran is like, anybody want to talk to Fran, you should call him. I'll give you his, in the room. You have anybody who's got clients. Jimmy's too busy right now for that kind of stuff. I've looked at some of the stuff that Fran did, and Jimmy should probably look at some of the stuff. But this is an example. There's nothing stopping you guys, even in our room, from starting to get to know each other and finding your strengths. And I'm starting to work on putting together this questionnaire system that I've shown Sue, in which it'll be really easy to start keeping track of what your guys' strengths are, and maybe even coming up with some maybe smaller hubs and mastermind groups for maybe you guys haven't found your posse yet, or your pod. And a lot of this is business development. It really has nothing to do with, and Sue and I talked about this a lot when I was in Austin. It's not just about SEO and digital marketing, it's about business development. How do you form a great company? How do you form a great team? And how do you create a strengths-based team that simply crushes it? I mean, you can really figure that out. Like if Fran is ranking all day for local, and Lorraine in the UK, can't even fulfill the 27 contracts she's closed in 4 days, then, that might be something where you guys could get together and say, hey, we might want to form a virtual agency. But these are just things for you guys to think about, and we talk a lot about it in the live Network Empire event. We also talk a lot about it in the Sell Blueprints First. We're going to be getting more and more into that as the year goes by.
Yeah, one of the things that I find is folks who are newer to entrepreneurship don't recognize the value in what they know. Because they know it, because it's easy for them, they have a tendency to devalue their abilities. And so then when they go and they land what to them is a good-sized contract, they have this underlying feeling of guilt, even so they might not recognize it, because they feel like they've got too much money for the service that they promised to deliver. So then they start adding on other things, sometimes even after the fact. Sometimes it's not even in that initial agreement. And so they end up with a whole bunch of extra hours in on a contract for the same amount of pay, and one of the ways that they end up losing money And
Yes, and what's so amazing about what Sue just said, and we did talk a bit about this, this is something I've really respected. You know, some of you may know that I spend a lot of time focusing on blind spots and cognitive illusions and these types of things. It's just a hobby of mine, and you know, I do some writing on that type of stuff, as some of you may have gathered. But that blind spot that she just discussed, which is the thing that you naturally are born to do, you devalue by default because it's so easy for you. And the only reason it's back on my radar is because almost a near billionaire friend of mine brought it back onto my radar. And what he clarified to me is that it's still going on even at that level of business. You know, every one of you on this call a couple of years from now is kind of probably to be dealing with especially if you stick with us, you're going to be dealing with seven figures and at least hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, each and every one of you in this room has the potential to make $100,000 a month or more. And we can show you exactly how to, I learned it from Sue. And I can show you exactly how to do that. Jimmy does it, Sue does it. But you know, I could not have done that without a team. Okay, I'm just being totally straight with you guys. I mean, I could have, but I actually know how much work. There was 1 month where I did really, really well 2 years ago, but even that was still team-based. And I do know people who do it without a team. And if you look at them closely, they're going to be working almost all the time. Some of you probably know people like that. In fact, you might even have mentors right now who that's what they do. But my point here is that even at the level of the game, the $500 million or moving towards $1 billion, it's really easy to forget. This billionaire friend of mine was telling me that the reason that he brought somebody into his organization, somebody who you all know, whose name is Joe Polish, you know, they hired him and they pay him a great deal of money. One of the reasons that they brought him into the organization was for the opposite reason that Joe thinks he was brought in. You know, they tease him a little bit about that. Joe is great at connecting people, but he also has a huge number of courses and training on, you know, how to social network, because Joe is really, really good at networking. The reason that they hired him was not because they wanted his products or access to the products that he created, but because he's so good at networking at that level of business, they just wanted the exposure to his network. So they bought him because of his massive exposure to everybody from Sir Richard Branson to. Now that's a really kind of interesting thing, that the way that the story goes is that, you know, Joe and other people, including me, sometimes think that our superpower, you know, what we're currently selling as our superpower has to be something that's hard for us. Okay. Now the thing that I later found out is that, you know, because it was harder for Joe to create those products to teach other people how to network, he valued them more instead of something that he just rolls out of bed doing by default. Like Joe's game is he gets up in the morning and by 7 o'clock at night he's talked to 200 people. That's, you know, 20 people at lunch. That's what he does, and that's what they bought, and that's easy for him. But what's hard is actually creating products out of it. So he just, of course, assumed when a billionaire comes to him and says, "Hey, I want to bring you on board," that's what they were buying. He said, "Well, I want a certain contract with." So what's really incredible here, I just want to let you guys know that it's not something that's going on just at whatever level we all are at business. Each and every one of you is just in the middle of finding your soul purpose, SOLE and SOUL. You're in the middle of finding out your strength-based skill set, your technical skill set. Don't forget that the thing that you're really, really good at, that you're probably devaluing, that you fall out of bed doing, your superpower, that it's so easy and powerful for you that you're afraid to give it value. In this business, if you've come in from an opportunity like OMG, where maybe you value SEO because it's so damn hard for you to do, and it's really, really easy for you to close sales in SEO, well, you might want to reconfigure that. For instance, if selling contracts for you is just like, I have actually met somebody recently, and I was telling you about, I think it was Lorraine or a couple of other people in the UK from OMG. If that's what you're good at, that's your superpower. It doesn't mean that the money and time you spent in learning the hardcore technical SEO was a waste, because Sue will be the first person to tell you, you still got to know enough to know so that you're not going to get screwed by shysters. Okay, you got to know how this technical stuff works a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but you should at least know under the hood that the car, you know, how an engine works. So if somebody doesn't tell you, give me a 1 if you guys understand what I mean by that. In other words, you might find out that you're not good at the opportunity system that you bought, or you might find out that you're really, really good at selling or really, really good at SEO, you know, and that's okay, you know, and because now you have enough knowledge to be organized and to be clear while you use your strength to open a business with that model. So that's one of the things that I just wanted you guys to really consider, is that at the level of the playing field that our organization is at, I get to see some very interesting things. And it's very interesting that even in the multi-million dollar realm, the same mistakes, the same types of blind spots or misconceptions can still pop up, which is the thing that's hard for me to do must be more valuable. Now, the way that translates in the field is exactly what Sue is saying. And we talk about this, and Mike Clay and I talk about this in Sell Blueprints First. The way it translates in the field, especially if you've never made $100,000 in a contract before, or never made $20,000 in a contract, or it seems like a lot of money. I remember the first time that I closed a $100,000 contract, and I was working with Sue on this really, really big contract for her, which was very, very easy because she's been in, she's dealt with millions of dollars in software development, these types of things. For me, I thought it seemed like a lot of money. And then when we broke the time down and we broke the proprietary nature of it down, by the time we were done, this giant $50,000 check or whatever it was that I thought was it was actually more than that, seemed giant to me at the time. And in reality, it was pretty much gone. Like, so you have to remember the opportunity costs. You have to remember what it takes to keep your lights on. You have to remember taxes. You have to remember what you guys are really working on, and just really stay focused on your strengths and pull together a team, that works for you, that is achieving the same goal, and really make a decision. Are you an SEO agency that sells yourself as digital marketing, or a digital marketing agency that also does SEO? In other words, just get really clear on your offering. And we're making that as clear as we can in sellblueprintsfirst.com. And, a lot of business development, you really can't get away from business development, from savvy like that when you're running ultimately an agency. Or you really can't get away from that when even though you're a one-man gang. I remember when Mike Long and I were on the phone and we were, OMG, I threw out this idea of one-man gang. I actually said one-man band. And then he thought, oh, one-man gang, that works. And then it was OMG because, oh my God, right? You get the whole acronym. So it was interesting how that whole thing developed, but all of it was based on this idea that, this one, you're a man alone in the environment. You're a freelancer, and there's a lot of you doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that. We just want to make sure that you really if you're going to be a one-man shop, it's more important than ever that you're clear that you're in your strengths. If it feels for a period of more than 4 or 5 months that you're pushing something uphill, probably you're going to want to team up with somebody and get something, either move into the sales aspect of it, move into the reputation management aspect, find the spot where your strength is, and then start applying these mechanisms. And you'll find all of a sudden the power of synergy begins to work, and you start generating huge amounts of money. I mean, this has happened several times, even people using our pro bundle system, which we offer in the network empire area. So just want to make sure you guys got that sense, and hopefully that was helpful to you. And I'll get off my business development soapbox here, but I have talked to an excessive number of people recently coming from OMG, where I just wanted to make sure that, and there's very, very successful people in OMG as well, okay, who formed teams and figured this on their own. The interesting thing is that because there's so many different levels of people coming into the OMG community and into our community, we don't know, because we're not focused on the business development. We don't know the level of experience that you have building a shop or building, dealing with things like, payments and contracts, and if you have them, and so this is the key to your success, is making sure that you have a team of people that's going to help you with that. All right.
Okay.
So I think probably it's 7 o'clock here, Sue. So we've been on for a couple of hours.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and shut this down for the night. Yep. And keep in mind, we have big things coming. We want to keep you guys more and more. You want to make sure that each and every one of you is making ridiculous amounts of money, okay? And we call this strength-based agency, or strength-based freelancer, or strength-based opportunity, business owner, okay, whatever it is that you're doing, or broadcaster. And focus on your strengths. And if you have any questions about what that is, I do have some information coming out on that, including a new Kindle book that should help you guys zoom in on that. And it'll really help you leverage those sweet spots in your own expertise. And with that, I think Jimmy's already left, but I want to thank Sue Bell, who's a mentor of mine, who's been very patient during the business development cycle for the last 10 years. we want each and every one of you, I really want to save you guys time so that the decision of how you make money is coupled with all this ridiculous power. Sometimes I feel like the ridiculous power of the technology and tools that we offer almost needs to be backed with some business development skills, because this is actually a true story. Somebody came in a year and a half ago and never ran his own business. And this guy was kind of like Mike Clay a little bit, but he was a damn good salesman. I mean, he sold me my own stuff. I was kind of embarrassed. Mike Clay has done that as well. I mean, it was actually quite humiliating. He took, similar to Mike Clay, and he didn't want me to talk to anybody about it. Mike Clay, thank goodness, is going to share that for all of you guys. But he had glued together a Kraken output and a bunch of my stuff from the wiki and a bunch of Sue's comments, and he'd sold this contract for $13,000 and didn't want to share it with anybody. It was to a big SEO agency. And that's what blew my mind, is like he was a one-man subcontractor who sold it to an SEO agency because they wanted to try it. And what blew my mind about it is that, you know, this kid was good, okay? He put the check from that contract into his personal checking account. This kid was like, I mean, there was no experience in business at all, right? And you know, we later on started talking and the rest, and he ended up getting involved with a great team that had an accounting system. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but he didn't. Like LLC, what's that? You know, what does it mean to be a sole? You know, he put it into his own personal checking account. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that by the end of the year, this guy was making, you know, as much as some lawyers make, and he was still running it out of his, you know, his grocery shopping account. So these are the things in business development that, you know, we want you guys to get your hand on as well. My name is Russell Wright, Sue Bell, Jimmy Kelley. We look forward to seeing you on the inside of the Project Breakthrough community. And of course, if you have any questions, please go to the Director's Cut Network Empire Hybrid Room. You can contact me at ThemeZoom, that's ThemeZoom, and be added to the Skype room. If you'd like to leave some positive feedback or any kind of feedback whatsoever, I'm going to be dropping the video technology that you can do a video testimonial or a video feedback. It doesn't have to all be positive. Whatever you want to talk about on there, I'm going to go ahead and give you that. Also, I'm going to drop the questionnaire one more time for you guys to be involved. And we do look forward to talking to you about our Deep Silo plugin, our video silo plugin about to come out. And I want to thank my team for the immense amount of work they've been doing on that. We will see you next Tuesday at the afternoon time, not the evening time. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.